I'm going to take Andy Ogletree for a top 40.
Plus money on Abraham Answer in his Masters debut to finish plus 125 in the top 30. I love that play. Peter, where are you going with yours?
Well, you just stole mine, Jason, which is so nice of you, with Corey Connors being the top Canadian. And I like when we're on the same page. I'm kidding. I think it's great.
My favorite matchup is matchups, plural, because I'm taking everybody against Bryson. I love taking Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, all against Bryson DeChambeau as even money or plus money.
I love this matchup bet. Maybe my favorite matchup bet that I've had on the Gimme. I'm going Hideki Matsuyama over Colin Morikawa. It's a perfect kind of storm where I get someone I'm really bullish on versus someone I'm bearish on.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gimme presented by BetMGM. Why the Gimme? You guys know why, because it's good. We are on the eve of the RSM Classic. 2 courses for the first 2 rounds, and we're going to break them both down for you over the next 30 minutes. And oh, by the way, we've got a Masters coming up in just 5 months. That's right. We just finished one this past weekend. We've got another one coming up very shortly. We'll talk about that as well. I'm Jason Sobel from Golf Bet, alongside my friends, as always, Peter Jennings and Amanda Rose. We'll have a nice Golf Bet hat giveaway later in the show. Stay tuned for that. And first, let's talk about one guy we will be speaking about for the next 30 minutes. Amanda Rose, hello. How are you? Who will you be speaking about?
How are you, Jason? I'm going to be talking about Denny McCarthy. He played well here last year, and he's on the right track with his game.
He can putt lights out. I like that. Peter, who you got?
Yeah, best putter on the PGA Tour. I like that, Amanda. Jason, fun to be on with you. I'm going to be talking about the tournament favorite, the Chalk, who I actually think is undervalued. I think he should be a huge favorite. He is, but I still see value in Webb Simpson. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm going to be telling you all about Davis Thompson. If you don't know who Davis Thompson is, stay tuned. He's the number 1 ranked amateur in the world. His dad is the tournament director. He's played this course about 100 times. And oh, by the way, he played here last year and finished 23rd. Other than that, I don't like him that much. I mean, what a great long shot play. So we'll be talking about that. We'll get into all those guys coming up very shortly. First, let's look at the top of the board for this RSM Classic. And we've got a lot of players. In fact, 37 of them coming over from the Masters last week. And many of them are right near the top of this odds board. Webb Simpson, as Peter just mentioned, 10-1 this week. We'll get into that in just a second. Sungjae Im, 18-1. And by the way, you can put together about 2 European Ryder Cup teams based on the players that are at Sea Island this week, including Tyrrell Hatton, 18-1, Tommy Fleetwood, 22-1, Matthew Fitzpatrick, 25-1, and Russell Henley from the good old US of A, 25-1. Peter, you mentioned earlier that Webb Simpson might not have the right number at 10-1 next to his name. Maybe he's actually a bargain at 10-1. What do you think about these odds, and are they in the right order right off the top?
Yeah, we talked about the podcast initially. I was thinking it might be a bit expensive, but after rerunning some numbers and really diving into Webb Simpson's history, he should be the biggest favorite by a large margin, which he is, but actually make him shorter than 10-1. If you look at sports books, other sports books outside of BetMGM, he's in that 8-1 range. A lot of books lay him plus 800, plus 850. BetMGM, as of Wednesday morning, still had 10-1, which I think is a fantastic bet. So clear favorite. I'll talk about him more in the show. The rest of the order looks pretty good. I would say Jason Day, in terms of win equity, should be right there in the mix. I probably have him a little bit ahead of Henley, and I think he's kind of right there as maybe the 4th overall golfer in terms of just straight win equity. Obviously, there's a little risk. The back can give out at any time, and he's withdrawn in certain spots throughout the year. But win equity, when Jason Day has his A game, he's world class, and he should be higher on the board.
Yeah, good point there. Let's get to our perfect portfolio. Some of us have been given $100 to use every week. I don't have it with me because I spent it already. I'm going to tell you about how I did that momentarily. Amanda,
I lost mine at the Masters.
Others. Yeah, Peter's lost his $100 at the Masters. So, well, we'll get him another $100 bill. You and I are out $100. Amanda's still got her money because, as you can see, last week's results on the screen. Amanda, nice pick on Bernhard Langer last week. That was fantastic.
Donka, yeah, I know. It was I'm good old Bernie. I love him 1 week a year and 1 week only, and that's at Augusta.
You know who doesn't love him right now? Bryson DeChambeau. He's getting made fun of all over social media for losing to 63-year-old Bernhard Langer.
It's not that crazy. I mean, Bernhard goes to Augusta and he plays lights out, and Bryson just eats Chick-fil-A all day. I mean, come on. Like,
I mean, if only you had told us about this last week, Amanda.
I did.
Oh, should have been on that. Okay. Moving on to this week's perfect portfolio. Peter, why don't you start us off? Where's your $100 going this week?
Yeah, so the Masters hit a couple things, but my perfect portfolio was not good. We were on with the props, but this week I feel great about the portfolio. Spending half the money on an outright. I never do this, but I mentioned Webb Simpson should be lower than 10-1. There's a lot of reasons why Webb Simpson should be lower than 10-1. He's the best golfer in the field by a good margin. He's the number 6 ranked golfer in the official world golf rankings. This is a perfect course for him. He's one of the most accurate players on tour, not arguably the most accurate if you look at his stats. And then his history here is just outrageous. Webb Simpson has 4 top 10s, 5 top 25s in this event. He's made the cut 8 out of 8 times at this course. He's literally the definition of the horses for courses type player here at the RSM Classic. So he is someone I'm investing in across the board, matchups, top 5s, top 10s, everywhere. I think he's undervalued, even as a huge favorite. After that, I'm spending $25 on Wyndham Clark for a top 10. Wyndham Clark's been playing really well, almost won a couple weeks ago. He's a really good driver of the golf ball, getting a ton of strokes off the tee, and he's also a really good putter, specifically from 8 to 10 feet. I think you need to make birdies this week. I like Wyndham Clark a ton. And obviously, you need to make birdies every week, but I think we'll see lower scores than some other courses out on the PGA Tour. And then finally, $25 on Henrik Stenson for a T20, which you're getting at plus 500. Stenson certainly has fallen off from kind of the elite form that he had through the 2010s, but he's still playing decently, especially on accuracy courses. He loves that 3-wood. He's still a fairway finder, and he's hitting a lot of greens. So, this is a field that has some really good players. It's not a field like we saw last week, and I think Stenson at plus 500 for a top 20. And where are you going this week?
I like those. I like your insight on Webb. I was thinking of going with Webb this week, but I was like, I can't copy Pete. Like, I'll copy him with the monies, but not on the show. So I'm going to go a little different route. I'm also going to spend a good chunk of my change on an outright. I'm going to go with Russell Henley. I mean, before the Masters, before the Masters, he was, one of the hottest players in the world, 3rd at CJ Cup, 4th at Zozo, playing really well. His golf combined with his recent his recent form combined with his history at the Sea Island courses is incredible. He had 3 years of top 10 finishes and then 3 years of missed cuts. So you kind of look at him right now and say, this is a guy that's getting back into the groove of things, right? This is a guy that's figuring it out. And I think that this is a good place for him to do it, since he's had such a good run here in the past, despite recently in the past here, he's had missed cuts, but overall with his recent form coming into this, it hit 25-1. I mean, that's not a bad price, because we're looking at him, DFS, he's in the 10,000s, and it was 11,000s a few weeks ago. And that's a big buy for him. So at 25-1, that's actually not too bad, at least in my opinion. I don't mind that. So I'm going to go top 10 at plus 550 for Mac Hughes. He's just another guy that's played some great golf as of late. He's turned his season around beginning in the spring and then again in the summer after having a really rough winter. So he's in a great place. He wasn't in the field last week for the Masters, despite being a guy that people would expect to see him in, in a field like that in a normal year. So he did finish 7th at Houston the week before. So he's been playing really well. He won here in 2016, which was the first time he'd ever even played the event. So I like him for a top 10. And then I'm going to close it out with Denny McCarthy, a guy I mentioned at the top of the show, $2 for a top 10. Again, recent form has been really good. He was 6th at Sanderson, 4th at Bermuda. This is all before the Masters. One huge stat that jumps out at me is that his average strokes gained per round in his last 20 events was 1.1. In his last 5 events, it's 5. So he has made just incredible gains in his last 15, 20 events. And that combined with finishing 8th here last year, I think it sets him up nicely to have a good week. Jason, what do you think of that?
I like that. I think Mac Hughes especially is a really smart play this week. He's been a guy that on fast greens is a really strong putter. I've heard the Plantation course, the one they only play once, kind of like Torrey North for the Farmers Insurance Open. They only play it one day on a Thursday or Friday, but I've heard the greens there are very quick this week. And so he could have a really nice day when he plays that one. I'm going to start from bottom and go to work my way to top for a specific reason. I'll get to it. But my top 20 play this week for $25 is Matthew Neesmith. Really liked him 2 weeks ago in Houston. He missed the cut, but his ball striking numbers were fantastic. And he just putted like well, bad. So I can't say the word that he putted like, but it wasn't good last week or 2 weeks ago. So Matthew Neesmith for a top 20 this week. Mentioned Davis Thompson off the top. All of those things that I mentioned are true. 23rd last year. He's played this golf course 50 to 100 times, he said. Should be very comfortable surroundings for him. I've got him $25 for a top 10 this week. And by the way, is there anything better than making money on a golfer who can't make money himself? I love betting on amateurs. It's like, I'm going to make more than he will this week if he plays well. And then, guys, I want to get to my favorite pick this week. I've bet him outright, but I'm going to be a little conservative here, take him for a top 5. Brian Harmon, $50 for a top 5. Lefty, great short game. One of the best short games, I think, out there from around the greens. And he's been trending in the right direction. 11 straight made cuts, 4 straight top 30s. He's had a few good finishes at Sea Island. He lives there. Peter, tell me I'm right about Brian Harmon.
Love Brian. I mean, this might be my favorite portfolio you've had on the Gimme. I'm with you on Thompson. Have made bets everywhere. I think he should be in like the 200 to 1 range. He's 400 to 1 in a lot of books. He's really had a lot of line movement. Maybe Jason had something to do with that. And Brian Harmon is someone I've been rostering a ton in DFS. So those two in particular, Neesmith, I I'm always buying the guys who putted bad recently. So across the board, I think that's a great portfolio.
All right. Well, my apologies to everybody for moving the line on Davis Thompson so early in the week, but hopefully you can still get in a decent number on him. Let's play the wheel, guys. We've got the top 6 on the board on our betting wheel this week. Super producer Evan Abrams will spin this wheel, and Evan, you're going to call the order. We're not sure which direction you're going with this thing, so as the wheel is spinning, call out a name, and we'll be ready for you. Evan, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. This has just been way too predictable. So I think we need to add a little bit of spontaneity to this. So let's spin the wheel, and I'll let you guys know what I'm thinking. All right. The wheel is rolling. Let's see who it shows up. So it looks like it's going to be, it's right on the, all right. So it was right on the line between Webb Simpson and Sung Jae Im. It went to Sung Jae Im. So I'm going to go with Peter Jennings.
All right. Sung Jae showed me so much last week at the Masters. Probably the player that impressed me the most. Obviously, DJ won, and I made him the favorite kind of going in, and it was incredible. So happy that DJ won. But relative to expectations, Sung Jae played just absolutely lights out. Hits exclusively a cut. I thought his short game and lack of experience was really going to kind of hold him back, and his short game was outrageously good, specifically on Sunday. He is clearly one of the top players on the PGA Tour, and priced like that this week, but it's a great course for him. He's so accurate off the tee. I really like him, and I don't mind him in basically any format. Outrights, top 5s, top 10s. I think he should be right there with Hatton as the number 2 guy this week.
Excellent. Like it. All right. So here's the deal. If it lands Fleetwood, it's automatically going to Amanda. But other than that, we're gonna figure it out. So let's spin the wheel and see what happens here.
Well, I automatically have interest.
Oh my God. It's Fleetwood.
Is it really?
Of course, that had to really happen. Amanda, you're on. Go.
So I'm going to go, I'm going to be a little modest this week. Tommy, top 20. He played the Masters. He was there all week. He's got to be tired. I mean, he has been playing great golf, but I don't know if this is a course that Tommy Fleetwood is going to come out and be Tommy Fleetwood at. I mean, he plays really well at elite events like the US Open, the PGA, the British Open. So I don't know if he's quite the horse for the course here, but I don't think a top 20 is anything too crazy. I mean, he's been in good form, and he's one of the best golfers in the world for a reason.
All right, there it is. Yeah, all right. So here's the deal. If it lands on Webb, we're going back to Pete, and we're just going to skip Jason. So
okay,
that's what's happening here. That's what's happening. So all right, it is. It's not going to be Webb. It's Fitzpatrick. So Sobel, you can go.
Okay. I don't love much of Matthew Fitzpatrick. I do think there's a correlation this week to the RBC Heritage at Harbour Town, and he has called Harbour Town his favorite golf course. There's a nice parallel vibe, because usually the Heritage is 1 week after the Masters in April. Now the RSM is 1 week after the Masters in November. And so I think it's going to take on a similar type of feel. Fitz does like playing that one, although he hasn't seriously contended. He's played well, but has not won that golf tournament. I'm not feeling him this week. I am taking Tommy Fleetwood at BetMGM at minus 118 in a matchup over Matthew Fitzpatrick this week. And as far as Fleetwood, T19 last week, just moving in the right direction. I think it's a great question to ask, and we'll ask this more, sort of the guys who played the Masters. What do we think of them? Who's moving up? Who's moving down? Fleetwood, after a T19 last week, I think is at least going in the right direction. I'm with Amanda. I don't love him here. He's not, has no history on this golf course, but I like him better than Fitzpatrick.
Amazing. Well, guys, listen, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys a little bit later.
Evan, thank you so much. Good luck producing the rest of the show.
Gracias.
Let's move on, guys. And we are going to get into some Masters-related talk. We're going to talk about Big Mo right here. Momentum, 37 players, making that 3.5-hour trek from Augusta to Sea Island this week. We're going to talk about one player that we each like to, as a buy off of their Masters result. And we can take this in a lot of different directions. There could be a guy who contended, like a Sungjae Im, who was up there all week, and we think can parlay that into another really strong result this week. It could be a guy like Tommy Fleetwood, who just played okay and kind of, moved his way up, just a little bit, baby steps from where he was playing. Could be a guy like Tyrrell Hatton, who missed the cut, got the weekend off, and might be nice and refreshed and ready to go this week. Amanda, who do you think has some momentum coming into this one based on what they did last week?
I'm going to go with good old Shreky boy, Louis Oosthuizen. He is one of my favorite people at Augusta. He is someone I bet on my own last week. Didn't mention him on the show, but I love him. I think he's great. His game is also trending in the right direction. He finished tied for 23rd last week. He played well there in the past, and he can bring that momentum into this week. He's not getting on a flight. He can bring his mattress from Augusta to St. Simon's Island or whatever really quite easily. So it's not going to be that big of a change from him. He did take time off after the CJ Cup leading up to Augusta. So I think that chance for him to become physically and emotionally rested heading into Augusta is going to play a factor into this week, because a lot of these guys like Tyrrell Hatton, he missed the cut last week, but he had just been playing crazy golf for so long. And Louis Oosthuizen is an elite player that hasn't been playing that much golf lately. So going into this week, I think he is in a great position, and 28-1 outright is not a bad number. I would like to see it more in the 30s just because he hasn't really done much lately. Top 10 plus 350, not a bad number for the top 10s, and BetMGM, no dead heat rules. So, I mean, if you're going to bet it there.
I like that. Really good points on Louis right there. I kind of tipped my hand because Evan picked me when Fleetwood came up on the wheel, but Fleetwood's my guy this week. With a T19 last week, I like the fact that he played well without playing too well. I just feel like a guy like Sungjae, even though Sungjae plays every single week, that was a lot of physical and mental energy to expend at Augusta National and then turn around 4 days later and try to play another golf tournament. So even though he plays all the time, he's got to be wiped out just a little bit. Tommy Fleetwood, though, never really in serious contention at the Masters, played well, didn't finish up that great. I like looking at the final round going into a back-to-back week, but I still think that he's, like I said, moving in the right direction. Peter, where are you going with your momentum play this week?
I'm going a little bit of the opposite of you here, Jason, and I get it. You can argue someone who's contending or was in a position they're not normally in, it'd take a lot of, mental energy, and certainly, we could see a letdown spot here. But the other argument that I do believe in broadly is that players on the PGA Tour play the best when they've played recently. There's a lot of predictive value in that, and it shows up in the numbers. And Dylan Fratelli has really found something. He talked about how he was motivated by Bryson, went to a longer driver and gained a ton of distance off the tee. And I don't think distance is important this week relative to other tournaments, but it's a nice thing to have. And I think his trajectory just overall on the PGA Tour is going in the right direction. Plus, his finish at the Masters opened up, he's guaranteed to go back next year. He's really earning status on the PGA Tour, and I think he's going to ride the momentum in, thinking that he can win and compete against the best in the world. So I really like Dylan Fratelli. He's someone I would be looking at to maybe buy again for the Masters next year, and I think this week he will come in with that positive momentum and continue to play well. I've made bets on him, and I will probably have exposure to him in DFS.
Yeah, long term, I'm a big Dylan Fratelli guy, and like you said, he's made gains in a couple of different definitions of the word, and I think he is a guy that he is, let's say, a year from now will be much higher on the world ranking than he is right now. I'll put it that way. So, guys, speaking of the Masters, hey, we're just 5 months away from going back to Augusta National. Can't wait. This is great. How cool is this? We didn't have one for 19 months. Now we have two within 5 months. So that's pretty cool. The odds, of course, are out already. There were odds listed Sunday evening after Dustin Johnson won this past week. And of course, at the top of the board, we're starting with DJ, who's trying to become just the second player in the last 20 years to go back at Augusta. The first was some guy named Tiger Woods. I had to look that up. I had no idea he had done that. DJ right now at BetMGM listed at 6-1. Justin Thomas 10-1. Rory McIlroy 10-1. Bryson DeChambeau 11-1. Jon Rahm also 11-1, and Brooks Koepka rounds out the top 6 at 14-1. We're looking for one player who might be a bargain right now. If you feel like, hey, I want to get an early Masters bet, I want to find somebody whose number right now is going to be a little bit higher than his number come Masters week in April, 5 months from now. Where's there a player that we can find a bargain on? Amanda, where are you going with your play this week?
I'm going to go with Brooks Koepka, 14-1 odds right now going into this event. I feel like they can really only go down. I mean, he's got to be pissed off that DJ won the Masters. He was pretty close here last year. He finished second last year, was 7th last week at the Masters. And he's someone that's very quiet in what he does, and he likes to kind of quietly move up. And I think that he has the opportunity to do that in the next 5 months. And that's a position that he really likes to be in. So if he comes into the event, not as the outright favorite, but kind of somewhere a little bit under the radar, but better or higher up than where he is now, I think that puts him in a really, really good position to go out and win the tournament. So I think all of these psychological factors play into Brooks, and I think Brooks is probably going to go out and play well in January, February, March, and then he'll be in a really, really good position come time for Augusta.
I like that a lot. I think that's a really smart play there. I think Brooks is a guy that he could be 10-1 by the time we get to April next year. So that's pretty smart. I'm going not too much further down the board. Xander Schauffele is 16-1 right now. Xander is a guy that I'm picking for 2 reasons. First of all, we've seen players and heard players over the last 6 months, 8 months say that they think Xander might be the best player in the world right now. And so it's hard not to argue it's Dustin Johnson. I get that. It probably is. And it definitely is Dustin Johnson right now. That said, Xander is a very, very good golfer. And so you can see him playing well. And then there's the fact that he plays well on the West Coast. So if we're looking at it from a tangible aspect, I think that if you're trying to get a bargain on a guy, that means it's a guy that's going to play well over the next 5 months. Well, the meat of that 5-month period is the first 2 months of 2021 when they're on the West Coast, and Xander tends to play some pretty good golf being a West Coaster himself. Peter, where are you going with your play for this?
Yeah, I was going to take Xander and knew that you were taking Xander, so I went a little different direction. I'll talk broadly about kind of the top of the board here. DJ's clearly going to be the favorite no matter what, and he has really short odds every single book that you look at. Then it's really close. BetMGM has Rory, JT, and then Bryson and Rahm. It's kind of a mixture. Rahm is the 4th or 5th guy in most books, and I think he'll be the number 2 odds, going into the Masters because of what you just said. I think Rahm is going to play extremely well on the West Coast, and he's, in my view, the second best player in the world. Item as the number 1 player right there with DJ coming into the Masters. The performance in the Masters, T.D. Green by DJ, catapulted him clearly to the number 1 player. So I do think there's a smidge of value on Jon Rahm. I'd really line shop if you're looking to make Masters futures right now. Prices vary a lot book to book, so make sure you're doing that. And I agree with you on Xander. I think he will go up. The one guy I'm bearish on relatively in odds is Bryson. He's still 10-11-1 coming off this last week. I think that recent performance will make him kind of in that 12-13-1 range when we get there. So he's the guy I'm bearish on of the top 6 golfers.
All right. I like that. Guys, we got to move. We got a lot left to talk about this week. We've only got about 7 minutes left. Let's get to our major props. There are 2 courses this week. The first 2 rounds, as mentioned earlier, split on the Seaside and the Plantation. Let's talk about props and matchups. And oh, by the way, we hit all of them for last week's Masters. We went absolutely 100% on our props and matchups. So pay attention, boys and girls. We're going to give you some here. Amanda, your favorite prop?
All right, I was kind of ballsy last week, went Ogletree top 40, and I cashed in pretty good on that. Yeah. So I'm going to just, do something else weird and go Scott Harrington top 20. My first week here, he almost finished top 20. It was so close, and everyone was like, hey, that was a great pick. And I was like, I know, he plays good at events like this. So I think this is a good event for him. He tends to play well. He's actually very good in the win. So if he is going to go out and do whatever it might be here. Implied odds tell us that he has a 6% chance that he'll actually finish top 20. I think there's a little bit better than that. So I think at that number, it's, anytime I get a guy that's I lost my number. I'm sorry. I know I had him for, it was like, I think
Plus
I want to say it was 12 to 1 plus 4. Okay. So it's 14 to 1 for him to finish top 20. So I like those odds for him, and that's where I'm going.
I'm going Webb Simpson, top 5 plus 200, sure money. Take the sure thing when they're going to give it to you, Peter.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm going with Stenson top speed. Again, recent form, bad. Long-term form, good. Hope it regresses to the long-term form on a course that suits him really well.
All right, let's get into a couple of matchups. And we might be on the same page here. I'm going JT Poston at even money over Chez Reavie. You know, today was JT Poston Day in Hickory, North Carolina, his hometown. I'm hoping it's JT Poston week this week at Sea Island, where his good ball striking can continue. He's playing really well before missing the cut. Chez, I like Chez Reavie, but I'll wait till the West Coast to bet on Chez. Peter, where are you going?
Yeah, I noticed the Xander one. Somehow I missed that you took Poston over Reavie. That's the matchup that stood out the most to me. I actually already bet it. Poston from the South, really trending in the right direction before the Masters, where he had a bad Friday. But yeah, I think he sets up really well. Chez, West Coast guy, Poston, East Coast guy.
The fact that we're on the same plays, I mean, I know that looks a little silly, but it might tell you something out there. Guys, Peter and I like the same plays this week. Hello. All right, let's get to our DFS lineup. We do it every week on the Action Network and Golf Bet podcast. You got to check out the models and tools on Fantasy Labs. We're going quick with a DFS lineup. Amanda, your first pick. You're up.
All right, I'm going to go with Henley. I know I talked about this a little bit earlier at $10,100, a little more expensive than I would like to see Henley, but he has been up in the 11s recently. So coming into this, great putter, great player, playing really well. This is a good place for him. He's a Georgia boy, so he's in a good spot. I'm going with Henley for the first one. Pete, where are you going?
Well, we're going to make it hard for Jason. I'm going to spend all the money here with Webb Simpson. He's 11,200, but you're getting a huge discount relative to the betting markets. And like I said, I think he should be like 8-9 to 1 on the betting markets. He's easily my top projection in DFS. If I run it just strictly on optimals, he's in 100% of lineup. So love Webb Simpson. Jason, you don't have much money to spend, but I know you love Davis Thompson. Talk to us why he is your top DFS play this week.
He, like I said, 23rd last year. He's played a ton of golf on this golf course, knows a lot of the players from Georgia. He's comfortable being around them, number 1 amateur in the world. And I don't know if he can play DFS. It might be some sort of NCAA violation if he was going to do it, but we can do it. So let's throw Davis Thompson in there. Amanda.
I'm going to go with Fratelli. I know, Pete, you talked about him a little bit earlier. For DFS, he had a 2% ownership last week.
Oh,
That's crazy. So this week, I assume it's going to jump. It'll probably be somewhere around 10-15%, but he's still a really, really good player. He had such a killer week last week. He's very easily working himself into the top 50 in the world. And 8,800, considering his recent form, is kind of a bargain. I mean, I was able to get Fratelli, and we've already taken Webb and Henley. So I liked him at that number. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, love the Fratelli pick. Really bullish on his trajectory. I think he'll play well this week. I'm going with JT Poston, who we talked about in the matchup. This should be, home for him. He's from the South, plays a lot of golf in the South, and he's been hot with the putter, and he's shown really good form previous to the Masters. So like him at 7,300. Jason, you have to go search for a cheap golfer again, but you're the man to do it. Where are you rounding out this lineup?
6,300 to spend. I already spent 6,300 on my last guy, but I love Scott Brown, a Southeast guy, plays well on Bermuda grass. This should be a good course for him. Henley, Webb Simpson, Thompson, Fratelli, Poston, Brown. That's our DFS lineup. That is a smash lineup. We've only got 2 minutes left, and we still got a giveaway. We got a golf bet hat. We asked for your favorite bet, and Amanda combed through all of the millions of answers we got. She's still counting the ballots, quite honestly. But
Stop the count.
Think we have a winner. Amanda, what do we have?
Well, I can tell you the runner-up because we stopped the count early. It was Panning for Gold, at Mikey Dubs. He said Panning for Gold, CT Pan to keep the good form rolling with a top 20 at plus 340. I like that number, and I like that number on a guy like Pan. But at Joey Silva 15, he said tournament matchup: Louis Oosthuizen minus 130 versus Shane Lowry. No brainer. I like that someone threw in a matchup this week, and I also love Louis Oosthuizen. So come on, come on, Joey Silva. Now you get the hat.
There you go. Okay, I'm okay with that, guys. We got 1 minute left. A long shot that we have not mentioned on the show yet. Peter, go.
Andrew Putnam, I think the number is way too long. Was 400, 300 to 1, now 250 to 1. I still show value there. Amanda, who's your long shot?
Peter Malnati, second at Sanderson, fifth at Shriners. He's got to get that second win soon, and the bucket hat's got to give him some good juju. What about you, Peter? Or Jason?
I love that you still don't know which one's which, but that's okay, Amanda.
You look the same.
I love that Andrew Putnam is tweeting out some very deep thoughts, which is very cool. Go check out his Twitter. I had a dream on Sunday morning that Jonathan Vegas won the Masters and was wearing a green jacket. That did not come true, mostly because he wasn't playing in the Masters. So I don't know if that's a dream for somewhere down the line or it just means he's going to win this week. But I'm going to hope that he is going to win this week. Maybe Jonathan Vegas as a nice long shot. Again, the board this week: Webb, Im, Hatton, Fleetwood, Fitz, Henley. Top 6 on the board. Thank you so much to everybody for watching the Gimme. You can catch us every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Check out all of our content on Golf Bet this week and every week. For Peter Jennings, for Amanda Rose, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all of your bets for this week's RSM Classic. Here's hoping you hit the green.